All right. That brings us to activity-based budgeting. We can finally discuss it. Now, given that you've refreshed your mind about ABC concepts and how ABM broadly gets used, ABB should be fairly straightforward. It's very simple. What you do, okay, before that, activity-based budgeting, the definition here, uses the costs determined in ABC to prepare budgets for each activity. Activity-based budgeting uses the costs determined in ABC, activity based costing, to prepare budgets for each activity. What do? We look at available information and we calculate the cost pools. Maybe you use the previous year's ABC information. You calculate the cost pools, you identify the cost drivers, estimate the cost driver values, and get the cost driver rate. Now, if you think that you can, on an individual basis, make adjustments to those figures, the cost driver values and the cost pool figures, for the new year, for the next year, you do that. And then you get the cost drivers for this year, for the future. You get an estimated cost driver for each activity. And then you calculate your total cost, full production cost, activity costs, anything and everything you want. So essentially what you're doing is you try to come up with an estimated cost driver and use that value and multiply it with your estimated sales or estimated activity level or estimated machine hours that you're planning to, you're budgeting, you're hoping to achieve, and get your estimated total cost values for each activity or total cost or full production cost or whatever. And that's your activity based budget. Very simple, very straightforward, not to do, but to understand. If you understand ABC and if you understand the concept of cost driver, then it's very simple. So if I give you an example about the travel, let's say we traveled 200,000 kilometers last year and we spent 2 million. Okay, fine. We get the cost driver rate. It's $20 or $20 per kilometer. What happens is that, no, it's $10 per kilometer. So now let's say we want to prepare the budget. We understand that we want to travel 250,000 kilometers. And we estimate that given the inflationary effect on the prices of gas, we estimate that the total cost is going to be, let's say, $5 million. So $5 million for 250,000 kilometers. You divide it and you get $20 per kilometer. That's your estimated cost driver. So now for the future year, for whatever products, let's say there are 2 products, for each product you're hoping to travel 10,000 kilometers each. You take that 10,000, that's your hoping, your estimate. You take that 10,000 kilometers each and multiply it by the new estimate, $25 per kilometer cost driver rate. You get 250,000. Yeah, $250,000 for that product. That's your estimated activity-based budget of travel cost for that particular product. Excuse me. So that's simply what ABB does. That's how ABB works. Keep it very simple. You have a couple of examples. It's an actual illustration that's completely been done for you, so you can try it out. In terms of advantages and disadvantages, again, a good summary has been provided. Anything and everything, most of the issues, advantages, and the challenges you face with ABC are somewhat reflected here as well. Like, the difficulty in figuring out cost drivers, the subjective nature of identifying cost drivers for each of your activities. And there are other benefits, the intelligence that you gain from it, the breakdown, the detail that you generally, with something like this zero-based budgeting or incremental budgeting, you don't get this amount of detail, amount of information. So in a time and age where we say knowledge is power and things like that, and data is power, if you have more information, we tend to think that, okay, so we have all this information, okay, this is better, we can do something with it. But that depends, that completely depends, and how you use it. If you muddle it up, then its utility and its value will be lost. In terms of challenges, it's very time consuming. It may be difficult to assign exactly, because certain activities are a combination of different departments. So there are challenges, practical challenges of exactly, even though you have the cost driver rate and all that, it's very difficult to exert control and limit those costs or manage those costs, because there's too many people involved and how exactly are you going to convey a particular cost driver that may be attributable only to one stakeholder, where there are 5 stakeholders involved in managing that activity. You can't just call them and say, look, this is the cost driver, because they're going to point their fingers at the other 4 stakeholders and say, I'm not the only one responsible for this activity. So why can't we all work together? Can we say that no, the cost driver that we picked was the one relevant for you? Doesn't work. So there are issues like that. Try to go through them. They're pretty self-explanatory, and that marks the end of all the budgeting systems. In fact, it's been a simple explanation, I suppose. You had many budgeting methods, budgeting systems. You have to, in summation, you have to understand how each of them works. You have to understand what kind of environment, what kind of business, what kind of circumstance is best applicable to which budgetary system. So it's really your ability, your judgment to pick the appropriate budgeting system for the right scenario. And you have to have a general gist of what's good about each of them and what's bad. That's also part of understanding where it's suitable and where it should be used. It can be used, right? There we go. On that note, I will see you soon on a different video. Good luck.